There are good NBA players. There are even great NBA players. And then, there's Luka Dončić, a player so unique, so mesmerizing, that at times you have to remind yourself you're still watching basketball. By just 26 years old, Luka had already stacked up 5 All-NBA first-team selections, posted record-shattering stat lines, and turned defenders into human traffic cones with moves that looked more like wizardry than athletics. But what truly separates Luka from everyone else isn't just the numbers. It's how he's rewriting the rules of the game itself. He's not the fastest. He's not the most explosive. He doesn't wow you with vertical leaps. And yet, somehow, he bends the rhythm of the game to his will, controlling every second as if he's moving on a different timeline than everyone else. Luka isn't just a superstar. He's the prototype for where basketball is headed. And just when the NBA world thought it had Luka's story figured out, a shocking trade flipped the entire league upside down. Luka Dončić, the face of the Dallas Mavericks, suddenly shipped to the Los Angeles Lakers. That wasn't just a transaction. It was a bombshell that sent ripple effects across the sport. To understand why Luka is already one of the most captivating athletes in basketball history, and why his best chapters may still be ahead, you have to go back to the very beginning. Luka Dončić was born in Ljubljana, Slovenia, in 1999. For most people, Slovenia is a small country tucked away in Europe. But for Luka, it was the perfect playground. Basketball wasn't just something to do after school. It was a way of life. His father was a professional player, and later a coach. His mother, a former hurdler, instilled discipline and work ethic into his DNA. The game wasn't just a hobby in Luka's household. It was destiny. By the time most kids his age were still memorizing multiplication tables, Luka was dazzling on the court. At just 12 years old, he was already dominating opponents years older than him. His coaches quickly realized something extraordinary. Luka couldn't be placed in his age group anymore. He was too advanced. His footwork, his vision, his creativity, they were freakishly polished for a child. But it wasn't only about raw skill. Luka had something more flair. He wasn't content just to score. He wanted to put on a show. He wanted the crowd to feel like they were watching something unforgettable. Even as a boy, Luka wasn't playing to win games. He was playing to own them. That mindset soon attracted Europe's biggest basketball powerhouse. At just 13 years old, Luka left his home, his country, and his family to join Real Madrid's famed youth academy in Spain. Imagine being a teenager, moving to another country, surrounded by strangers, and asked to perform on one of Europe's grandest basketball stages. For most kids, it would have been overwhelming. For Luka, it was an opportunity. Within 2 years, he wasn't just surviving in Madrid. He was dominating. He led youth teams to championships, piling up MVP awards as if they were trading cards. At just 15, Luka was already practicing with Real Madrid's senior squad. At 16, he was suiting up in EuroLeague games, not against kids, but against grown men, many of whom had NBA-level talent. And instead of being intimidated, Luka thrived. They gave him a nickname, El Niño Maravilla, the Wonder Boy. By 2018, Luka had reached the mountaintop of European basketball. He led Real Madrid to a EuroLeague title, averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. He won EuroLeague MVP, Final Four MVP, and became the youngest player ever to claim those honors. At just 19 years old, Luka had already conquered Europe. But there was still one mountain left, the NBA. His path to America, however, wasn't smooth. Despite his historic resume, doubts followed him. Scouts questioned his athleticism. Was he too slow? Could he keep up with NBA speed and physicality? And lurking behind it all was a familiar bias, skepticism about international stars. Then came draft night 2018, one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history. The Atlanta Hawks selected Luka with the 3rd overall pick. But before fans could celebrate, he was traded to the Dallas Mavericks for Trae Young and a future pick. From the moment Luka stepped on an NBA court, every skeptic vanished. His rookie season was nothing short of a masterclass. He averaged 21 points, nearly 8 rebounds, and 6 assists per game. More than the stats, it was his presence, how he commanded games with poise far beyond his years. By season's end, he was the runaway rookie of the year. The Mavericks hadn't just drafted a star. They had found a generational talent. And then came his second season. Luka didn't just get better. He exploded. There are stars in the NBA. There are legends in the making. And then, there's Luka Dončić, a player whose very existence forces you to rethink what basketball is supposed to look like. His rise from teenage prodigy to global superstar has been nothing short of astonishing. And just when fans thought they had Luka's story figured out, a shocking twist flipped the league on its head. But to understand why he's already one of the most captivating players in basketball history, and why his best may still be to come, you have to follow the journey of how Luka Dončić became Luka Magic. By his second season in the NBA, Luka was no longer just a promising young talent. He was a force. His scoring leapt to nearly 29 points per game, his playmaking vaulted him into the top tier of NBA passers, and at just 20 years old, he earned his first All-NBA first-team nod. The league had rarely seen a player that young so polished, so dominant, and so confident. And in the playoffs, Luka gave us one of the most iconic moments of the modern era. Game 4 against the Clippers. The step back, game-winning 3 at the buzzer. Bang! Mike Breen's call echoed across the world, Luka Magic. From that moment on, Luka wasn't just the Mavericks' future, he was the future of the league. Night after night, he posted stat lines that looked ripped straight from a video game. He wasn't the fastest, wasn't the strongest, but he was always 2 steps ahead. His gift was rhythm, his ability to slow the game down and make defenders play at his pace. You could trap him, double him, throw the most athletic wings in the league at him, none of it mattered. Luka bent the floor to his will. As the seasons piled up, so did the accolades. All-NBA selections, All-Star appearances, MVP conversations. By age 25, he had already led the Mavericks to the finals once, cementing himself as the face of Dallas and one of the NBA's most marketable superstars. But trying to define Luka's game is like trying to describe a masterpiece. There are shades of legends past, yet the final product feels entirely new. He has James Harden's isolation brilliance, the step-backs, the foul drawing, the deceptive drives that feel like they're happening in slow motion but somehow always end in a bucket. He has LeBron James' vision, the way he manipulates defenses, reading coverages like a quarterback, putting teammates in the exact spots they need to be. He channels Magic Johnson's Showtime flair, behind-the-back dishes, no-look lasers, full-court passes that make highlight reels explode. And then there's Larry Bird's shot-making DNA, the impossible fadeaways, the outrageous angles, the sheer confidence to attempt shots most players wouldn't even dream of. Even Dirk Nowitzki, the Mavericks legend before him, left fingerprints on Luka's game. The one-legged fadeaway, the footwork, the European craft. And if that wasn't enough, Luka mirrors Nikola Jokic in how he controls tempo. Both bend the flow of a game as if they're playing chess while everyone else is stuck on checkers. That's the beauty of Luka. He isn't just copying the greats. He's remixing them, building a style of basketball that feels at once familiar and entirely revolutionary. By the time he turned 26, Luka's numbers weren't just impressive. They were historic. Career averages, 28.6 points, 8.6 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. Not numbers of a promising star, numbers of an all-time great. He'd already recorded over 90 triple-doubles, placing him top 10 in NBA history. He became the second fastest player ever to reach 50 triple-doubles, behind only Oscar Robertson. His streaks were absurd, 6 straight 30-point triple-doubles, 5 straight 35-point triple-doubles, feats that looked more like video game challenges than real-life accomplishments. And then came the scoring explosions. Multiple 60-point games, including his legendary 60-20-10 night against the Knicks, something no player in NBA history had ever achieved. And in January 2024, Luka detonated for 73 points against the Atlanta Hawks, tying for the 4th highest scoring game ever recorded. And that was just the regular season. The playoffs only elevated his legend. Luka averaged over 30 points per game in the postseason, second only to Michael Jordan. He already had multiple 40-point playoff performances, often dragging his team to victory nearly single-handedly. Advanced metrics told the same story. A player efficiency rating of 25.5, firmly in superstar territory. A box plus-minus of 7.6, MVP-level dominance. A usage rate north of 35%, proving he wasn't just part of the Mavericks offense. He was the offense. Then came February 2025. A night that shook the NBA to its core. Out of nowhere, ESPN's Shams Charania dropped the bombshell. Luka Dončić was being traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis and a future first-round pick. The basketball world froze. Fans assumed it was fake. Analysts called it the most shocking trade in a decade. Luka wasn't just the Mavericks' best player. He was their entire identity. Trading him felt unthinkable. But it was real. Luka Dončić, the face of Dallas, was now heading to Los Angeles to team up with LeBron James. Almost instantly, the Lakers transformed. Luka's presence boosted their offense by double digits per 100 possessions. Their net rating skyrocketed when he was on the floor. The entire system bent around his brilliance, and suddenly, the Lakers went from contenders to favorites. It wasn't just a trade. It was a seismic shift that rebalanced the NBA. At just 26, Luka Dončić is already a lock for the Hall of Fame. His numbers, his accolades, his records, they guarantee it. But what's truly frightening is how much runway he still has left. Unlike stars who rely on pure athleticism, Luka's dominance is built on skill, IQ, and timing. That means his prime won't burn out quickly. He could sustain this level for another decade. And so the questions grow louder. How high is his ceiling? Could he become the greatest offensive player in NBA history? Could he one day surpass LeBron, Magic, or Bird in the all-time conversation? Could Luka's name eventually sit beside Jordan and Kobe in the pantheon of basketball immortality? What we know is this: Luka isn't just playing basketball. He's redefining it. He's proving you don't need freakish athleticism to dominate. You need vision, control, and brilliance. That's why Luka Magic isn't just a nickname, it's reality. From his childhood days in Slovenia to conquering Europe with Real Madrid, from silencing doubters in Dallas to shocking the world with a move to Los Angeles, every chapter of Luka's story has felt like a movie. He's already delivered unforgettable game winners, jaw-dropping triple-doubles, and scoring explosions that rival the greatest players who ever lived. And the craziest part? He's still only 26. If this is Luka now, what will Luka look like in year 10? In year 15? Could we be watching the rise of the most unstoppable offensive engine the game has ever seen? One thing is certain, you don't want to miss what comes next. Because Luka Dončić isn't just rewriting the record books. He's rewriting basketball itself. So I'll leave you with this. Is Luka already the best offensive player in the world? Or are we still just scratching the surface of what he can become?